China and Japan to refer the dispute over Senkaku Kiaomi to the International Court of Justice.
We're actually at the end of our time, and the hour's gone by very quickly. I thought when I came here today we'd have a relatively bookish discussion, but Koh has treated us to a seminar on both domestic and foreign policy, which has been remarkable. Okay, if you want, we'll do final questions, and then if you want to stick around, we'll have some books on it.
Prof. Koh, I think both Vinod and I would here to ask you the same question. It's, why do you choose to write a collection of articles instead of an autobiography of yourself? Because if you wrote an autobiography, I think both of us would definitely buy it as well. So why do you choose to write compilation?
I've been asked to write an autobiography, and I said no, because I don't think I'm important enough. I don't want to write an autobiography. This book is the fault of my publisher, Professor K.T. He persuaded me for 2 years, allowing me to publish an anthology of my essays, and I keep telling Prof. Wong, Hong's boss, that such a book will not sell. It's very boring. Prof said, don't worry, he'll take the risk. All that he asked for me to cooperate with his editor, and that he's not asking me to give him any money or to buy any number of copies of the book. So in order to make the book more saleable, I've included many photos of my wife as she was young and pretty. I've also, of course, included many essays about Singapore, about law, about diplomacy, about nature, about heritage, and about people. I hope that if you choose to buy a copy, I hope that you find it interesting. But if you find the essays and lectures not interesting, at least you enjoy my wife's photo.
Just the last question. Throughout the book, you pay tribute to many individuals, and it's all done in your signature 3-point style. So if you were asked to pay tribute to Nelson Mandela in 3 points, what would you say?
Oh, but if you're my Facebook friend, which you are not, right? Like when Nelson Mandela died, I did post something on my Facebook. Because I had the privilege of meeting him when he visited Singapore and delivered the Singapore lecture. 1997. Yeah, 1997. He delivered the Singapore lecture. I still remember at the Shangri-La Hotel, chaired by the current president of Singapore, Dr. Tony Tan. At the end of the lecture, I asked him a question. I said, President Mandela, you spent 27 years in jail, and yet, when you walked out of this prison, you decided to forgive your enemies. I said, we in Asia are brought up in a political culture when we are seeking revenge and vengeance. If you look at Chinese movies, it's all about revenge and vengeance. I said, could you explain to us, whether it's religion, philosophy, why did you choose not to seek justice, but to seek reconciliation and to forgive your enemy? He is such a great man, he's very humble. He said he had no choice. What he meant was that he had to reach out to the whites and reassure them that they have a place in post-apartheid South Africa, because without them the economy would collapse. His political genius can be seen in a movie which I hope Greg will show the college. It's a wonderful movie called Invictus. How many of you have seen the movie Invictus? It's a great movie. This is a political genius and a great statesman. During apartheid South Africa, only the whites were allowed to play rugby. You know, the South African rugby team, world famous, called Springbok, was entirely white, and almost exclusively Afrikaner, you know, a Boer. So the year when Nelson Mandela was elected president was an important year because South Africa was hosting the Rugby World Cup. And his own followers in ANC felt that Nelson Mandela should have nothing to do with the Springboks because they hated the Springboks. Many of them hated the whites for all the evil that they had done to him. But Nelson Mandela, being the political genius that he was, recognized that this was a moment for him to be a contrarian. He invited the captain of the rugby team to see him in his palace. He reached out to him to befriend him and to urge him to win the World Cup. And he turned out for the final. I can't remember who they were competing against. South Africa against, is it Australia or New Zealand or something? Huh?
New Zealand.
Sorry?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Mandela came wearing a Springbok jersey with the captain number and a Springbok cap. I think that was a moment in which the South African whites knew that this is a president they could trust. He was just a remarkable guy. The other thing remarkable about him is that he served only one term. He could have continued, you know, although of course he was very elderly, you know. But he knew that he shouldn't stay on too long. He groomed a successor, Thabo Mbeki, and allowed Thabo Mbeki to take over from him. I wish he had stayed another term because his job was not done. And Thabo Mbeki is an intellectual, very eloquent, visionary, but he didn't quite deliver, I would say. And I fear for the future of South Africa. I've only been once. We talk about disparity. If the disparity in Singapore is bad, the disparity in South Africa is just horrendous. When I was there in 2002, as a guest at the UN, I had a very good friend who was a South African Minister for Housing, and she arranged for me to visit 2 black townships. The older one called Alextown. And of course the bigger one that's well known. And when I went to visit these 2 townships, I was horrified because it looks like half the people were unemployed. They had no jobs to do, the living conditions were bad. And I wonder how can this country hold together if the majority of people live like this. And when you go to the white suburbs of Joburg or Pretoria, the privileged white in South Africa live even better than the millionaires do in Singapore. So I fear for the future of South Africa. But Nelson Mandela is a miracle because I never imagined, and although I'm an optimist, you know, I never imagined that apartheid would end peacefully. I never imagined that the whites in South Africa would willingly give up power and live under black majority rule. I never imagined that the blacks and whites could live in one country and there would not be a partition. So he's truly a great man.
Thank you, Prof. Koh. And if I could have everyone join me in giving you a big hand. I'd also like to thank BookHaven for this event, giving us this space. And you may not know it, but Prof. Koh actually named BookHaven. This is really our community bookstore. And I hope that you'll come back here regularly and shop. It's really important to us in Newtown to have a bookstore. And you can begin and not just shop for the stuff over there, which is great, but also the books over here, which will be